Hi, everybody. Joe Getman here, your official tour guide on the path to health and happiness. Remember, think of me as your personal coach, helping you achieve all of your goals as they relate to health, energy, vitality, and of course, happiness by creating lasting change. And as I always say, that last part, creating lasting change, is the key component to all of this. Because let's get real for a second, everybody. Most of us can create change for the moment, for the day, the month, and maybe even the year. But the real magic happens, and we can really achieve all of our goals if we can create change for a lifetime. And that's really the goal here. Um, this particular training video is we're going to talk about how to apply the 80-20 rule to health and creating this lasting change. And many people out there have already heard of this 80-20 rule, particularly when it applies to business. And we talk about the 80-20 rule in business. Really, we talk about the idea of 80% of your sales come from only about 20% of your clients. And what we can take away from this is, hey, let's spend and a lot of our energy, a lot of our focus on this 20% rather than chasing around all of the other clients out there that waste our time, get free information, free consulting, as we say, but never really buy anything from us. Um, and that's a rule that we apply to business. But when it comes to achieving your health and your happiness by creating lasting change and incorporating this 80-20 rule, you really have to take a look at two main areas, or as I say, two components, and how much time and energy you really spend and focus on each one of these two answer components. Before I go further, let's take a look at these two main areas so we're all on the same page here. The first area that we look at is strategy. And when I say strategy, it's kind of made up of two smaller components, and I'll get to those in just a second. But let's get to the second area, and that is psychology. And again, there's some components within the area of psychology. I'll get to those in just a second as well. But let's take a look at strategy. What involves or what's incorporated in this strategy area? Well, the first one's going to be diet. And as you probably already know, there are really hundreds of various diets out there. Many of them are very good, and many maybe not so good. But everything from the South Beach diet to the grapefruit diet to the Atkins diet. I think there's a cabbage diet, a soup diet, and again, many of these diets are very good. The problem is, many of us, get motivated, get psyched up, and we can do these diets for a very specific or limited period of time. Eventually, we lose the motivation, we forget why we're doing this, and we go back to our old habits. Kind of same thing with exercise. That's the second component of this strategy component or strategy area. When we talk about exercise, we talk about, and again, there's hundreds of exercise routines out there, and many of them are very, very good. You look at Tony Horton, and he does P90X, a great workout. Jackie Warner's another one. She has very good exercise videos and routines as well. Again, there are hundreds out there. And many of them are very, very good and will produce results. So that's really not what we're going to take a look at too much in this particular thing, but we're going to look at the strategy as a whole and how much time and how much energy and focus we should really spend on diet and exercise versus the other component, which I like to call psychology. We take a look at psychology, there are really three main components. The first one is identity, the second one is motivation and leverage, and the third one is your mindset. When I talk about the first one, identity, I really like to talk about how do you view yourself in your gut and in your soul. Are you really a heavy person in a thin person's body or wanting to be a thin person's body? Or are you really deep down, you're going to be a thin and healthy person? You're just kind of temporarily trapped in somebody a little bit bigger than that. Because how we view ourselves, and we'll call that our identity, really shapes our patterns and our behaviors, how we act to things or react to things. And we'll talk about that more in a minute as well. Also, motivation and leverage. Why are we doing this? What really motivates us? What gets us juiced in the morning to get up and exercise or a certain way or behave a certain way? Also incorporated into that is also leverage. When I say leverage, I mean, what kind of pain are you currently in? What makes you change? And if you've seen my other videos, you know that leverage is a key, probably the most important component to creating lasting change, if I'm going to be really honest about it. Why we do things. The third part is mindset. And that is, what kind of stories do we tell ourselves? What, if they're old, boring, kind of played out stories that we've been telling ourselves over and over again for years. Things like, hey, I've been on dozens of diets before, I've tried everything, and nothing ever works. I mean, if we keep on playing this type of story in our mind, we will never, ever accomplish our goals. And that holds so many people back. And we'll get into that a little bit, in the future as well. But let's go on to the next slide. And this is really where things get mixed up. And to be honest, why people flat out fail to achieve their goals. We take a look at the main two components here, strategy and also psychology. And this is typically how people spend or focus their energy. Usually they do about 80 or 90% on the strategy and only about 10 to 20% on psychology. And if you want to go look at this in a more visual representation, I like to think of it as a pyramid. On the top of the pyramid is a strategy. And again, we're spending a bulk of our energy and our time on our strategy, trying to find the perfect diet, the perfect exercise routine. And we're really not spending a whole lot of time on the psychology, usually about 10, 20%. This is what I propose to folks, and this is what really is the key to lasting change, is, hey, I want you to spend a bulk of your time on the psychology, 80, 90% of the time. Strategy should make about 2%. That's not saying that strategy is, any less important, but we have to take a look at, if we're going to spend our time and energy on this, where do we really want to put it? To be honest, you want to spend, again, 80% of your time on identity, making sure that you have either changed your identity or reinforce your current identity, if that's the positive identity that you take a look at. Really revisiting your leverage and your motivation, and also working on your mindset. Not becoming paralyzed, the paralysis by too much analysis type of thing, where you're just looking for quote unquote the perfect diet and exercise program, because each one is different and will work for different types of people, and it really all depends on your circumstance about which diet and which exercise program is best for you. But let's face it, many of you out there have tried many diets and many exercise programs and gotten some pretty good results. What happens is we lose the motivation, we forget about who we are as a person, and we let this head trash play out in our minds over and over again, and we fail in the psychology part. We don't fail in the diet or exercise part, but really we fail what goes on in our minds. And I like to think of this comparison as kind of to an iceberg. The humongous pieces of ice that float around in the ocean. And if you really think about it, and if you know anything about icebergs, only about 10 to 20% of the iceberg is visible above the water. And about 80 to 90% of the iceberg is below the water out of view. And really what's important, the most important part of the iceberg is what's below the water, what's out of view, because that's what keeps the iceberg upright, floating, and heading in whatever course it's headed. And the same thing kind of happens when we apply this 80-20 rule for our health and happiness. The psychology, think of it as the bottom of the iceberg. That's the foundation. It's the most important part. It's not the most visible. It's not the sexy part. But if you have a strong base or strong psychology, I don't care what diet or exercise program you're on, you will ultimately fail to create lasting change. So that's what I want everybody to take away from this particular video. Spend and focus on 80% of your time on the psychology of this. Again, your identity, your leverage, your motivation, your mindset, and spend about 10 to 20% on the strategy, which diet and exercise program is going to work for you, because you can change that up on a team basis. In fact, change is really good. Try different diets, different exercise programs, and you will find one that works for your particular situation. I hope you found value in this particular training video. I know it's a lot to take in. It's a little bit different perspective because so many of us are so used to spending so much time on, which diet are the celebrities using, or, which celebrity fitness trainer is the hottest right now. I really want everybody to spend most of their time on themselves. Be a little selfish once in a while. Work on your own psychology, the positive mindset. Remember, find the appropriate leverage. Why are you doing what you're doing? Hopefully it's something for yourself. Quality of life, those types of things. If you want more free training videos, more information, please go to my website. It's www.thepathttohealthandhappiness.com. There's more free videos there, more information. I'm not trying to sell you a darn thing here. We're just trying to get the message out there to help people create that lasting change that we're looking for. And it's been my pleasure. And remember, live healthy and be happy. And again, my name is Joe Getman. Thanks a lot.